Today we're going to be talking about data. More importantly, how you can leverage that data to differentiate your business, produce positive business outcomes, and how you can leverage that data and integrate with your contact center. So we'll just give you a little introduction on who we are. My name's, again, Travis Dillard. I'm the president and CEO of Inflow Communications. My background is about over 20 years of experience, starting in the combat communications world in the military. So I've spent many years working in the unified communications and contact center space from a design, sales, engineering aspects of the field. I've seen everything, many different manufacturers, many different technologies, and a lot of different applications. Specifically as it pertains to UC and contact center. And we have Chris Riccio. Chris Riccio is our Director of Contact Center and Advanced Applications. Chris Riccio has over 25 years of experience. He's worked actually initially as a customer managing the technological aspects of a contact center. So he brings a very interesting perspective. And from there, he's also worked with Intertel, Mitel, Ennoble, and most recently, before he came on with Inflow, ShoreTel. And he was their national contact center expert. And so we're very excited to have Chris. He brings a wealth of knowledge, not only a wealth of knowledge around the technology, but also the various business applications and experiences and examples. So he provides a lot of value for our customers. Quick introduction on Inflow Communications. We were founded in the late 90s. Actually started out initially as more of an IT-focused company, but over the years we've really narrowed our craft and honed our expertise down to unified communications and, more importantly for this call, the contact center space. We are a national organization. We have offices from the west to the east coast with staff across the country. All of our staff are experts in the contact center and UC space, and we can be experts in this space because we are focused. We're not trying to represent a myriad of different technologies. We focus specifically on the contact center piece of this, as well as the UC space. You can see a few of the customers that we work with on a national scope here. Zillow actually is one of the customers we're going to be chatting about on what we're doing with their contact center operation and how we're leveraging in with their Salesforce.com data. So without getting into too much of a commercial about Inflow Communications, I do think this has some merit though. There's some things that make us different. Obviously our focus on our craft makes us different, which allows us to be fanatical about the customer experience. And we really are. Over the last 5 years, we've been putting a lot of effort into really fine-tuning and crafting the experience that our customers receive when they work with us. And I say this because this is very important and very applicable to this presentation, because everything is about customer experience. And I'll get on that soapbox here in a second. But if you're not thinking about your customer and providing unforgettable customer experiences, you're going to be left behind. And especially as the new buyers are coming into the market, buyers are more empowered, you have to be thinking about this. And so Inflow, our customers, benefit from our fanatical focus on customer experience. Everything we do focuses on speed of response, communicating with urgency, and speed of resolution, but we take it a lot further than that. We don't just put that in a brochure. We take these statistics, which actually come from our help desk applications and comes from our contact center, and we push that live to our website. So we have live, unfiltered metrics on how fast we respond and resolve and how happy our customers are. And then we take it a step further there, and up to 10% of the compensation of all our employees are tied to that. So quarterly we look at these metrics, and bonuses are paid out based on how well we do. And then we take it a step further and we put SLAs in place where we put money where our mouth is. We offer credits if we fall short of rapid response, rapid resolutions, and fanatically happy customers. This is extremely important to us. And for some of our customers that are on the phone with us right now, I think they would agree to that. So that's Inflow Communications. I think the last thing that's most applicable to this call is that we, unlike a lot of technology integrators, we have a very acute focus on contact center consulting. With the acquisition of Chris and other contact center consultants that we have over 20 plus years of contact center expertise on our staff. And when we say consulting, we're not talking about a consulting practice that focuses on the lights and the bells and the whistles and the technology aspect of contact center, but we focus on the operations, we focus on the business, and this is more of a business consulting practice. And we're really driving it to be vendor agnostic, although we work within specific technology disciplines when we deploy contact centers for our customers. We are looking at it as a business consulting practice. So we work with customers that don't necessarily have the technology products that we implement. And it's very successful because it's a consulting practice and everybody has different contact center technologies in their operation. So to highlight the things that make us different are our focus on our craft, our fanatical focus on the customer experience, and our contact center consulting practice. So today's webinar, we're going to be talking about how to leverage data, how to integrate it with your contact center, thinking outside the box. A lot of people think very one-dimensional when it comes to leveraging data in contact centers. So we're going to give you some examples of things to consider. We're going to give you some examples of what some of our customers and other national leaders are doing within their contact center. And based on that, again, everything ties back to how these things are creating unforgettable customer experiences for their customers. How do they differentiate themselves, and how can you differentiate yourself in your industry? And ultimately, most people in the for-profit world are hoping to increase revenue and profits. So that's the end goal is positive business outcomes, but starting first with the customer in mind. So the whole topic today is about data, the missed connection in your company customer love story. We put the slide in here because almost everybody has data on their customers, not just current data, but historical data and trend analysis. But oftentimes that data is heavily underutilized. And what a great way and low-hanging fruit to start really driving the customer experience and really improving the way you support your customers by starting to leverage that data in your contact center operation. So some examples of things to stop doing, right? Quit asking your customers the same thing every time they call you. Why do you ask your customers, if you know who they are, for their account number every time they call you? Why, when your customer has told you 500 times that they're Spanish speaking, why do you keep asking them if they want Spanish or English menus? Treat them like you know them. Create an experience that they won't forget. Quit treating them like strangers. Another example, stop giving millennials the only option to connect with you is voice. They're looking for web chat. They're looking for social. They're looking for other channels. So you got to start thinking outside the box here. And then this is the true cardinal sin. Quit treating your VIP customers like everybody else. Generally speaking, 20% of your customers, a certain group of them, generate 80% of your revenue. Why are you treating them like everybody else? You need to start identifying your VIP customers and offering them a more personalized, customized experience. And so the key here is, right, aligning these three things. Aligning your technology, which is your contact center operation, aligning the business objectives or the goals of the organization, and your data. And that's key, right? A recent industry recap of contact center trends cite that CRM integration and personalized service via customer data will continue to be more of a focus in 2016. Well, that's definitely an understatement. We believe that by the year 2020, 80% of all business will be done or not done, meaning consumers will vote with their pocketbook solely based on the customer experience. Customers are empowered and they're demanding more. So if you're not thinking about your customer experience, your competitors are. And so that's why in the center of this slide, we put your customer experience will make or break you. Plain and simple. It all has to start with a customer experience. And what a great way to start with the data that you have on your customers and leveraging that with your business objectives and your technology. So I'm going to hand this over to Chris. Again, Chris Riccio is our Director of Contact Center and Advanced Applications. I'm going to see if we have any questions here. Looks like we don't have any questions yet. So Chris, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Great. Thanks, Travis, and good morning, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to spend a little bit of time with us to kind of give an overview and see what we have in mind. Now, as Travis mentioned, I do have an extensive history in the contact center space, and many years ago, I had the opportunity to work with an application that gave me access to data. And while I don't consider myself a data head, what I really like about data is the options it gives us. And when I talk about the contact center, everyone's familiar with the term ACD, at least if you've been in a contact center or a call center, whatever vernacular you use, everyone's familiar with the term ACD. But when I think about data and you marrying it to the ACD, I think about how do we break the cycle of what people are commonly doing in a cookie cutter fashion and make a difference. And more importantly, I take my personal experience as a customer. I mean, as with anybody, I use many different services and features, and a lot of times when I am contacting a call center, I am diligent in my expectations because I know what technology can do today. So that brings us full circle to the impact of data and how I marry that to data and my perceptions. So we're going to go through a process here. Well, I'll give you examples of what we're doing with some of our clients, how we're helping our clients create great experiences for themselves. So as Travis mentioned, a recent study, and this happens at the end of every year, there's always these national studies about where are the trends in contact center. And we have gone from a cycle of the technological age to now the focus is really based on the customer satisfaction and the customer experience. And what is interesting is when I talk to different businesses and the folks that I meet throughout my travels, my job at Inflow and my previous employers, is that what I'm seeing, at least in the last 3 years, the contact center trends are definitely no longer seen as just a cost center. Some of the more progressive contact centers that we work with are forward thinkers. They, in fact, are looking at their contact centers as profit centers. When we work with our clients, we work with them at the C level all the way down to the user level, and most of those folks are now understanding the valuable circle of their contact center relates back to profits. It's about customer perception. It's about customer loyalty. And what I'll say is that current trend or not, I've always had very strong opinions about the customer, and from my own personal experience, the customer experience has always mattered. And today more than ever, people are focusing on the customer experience because they understand it affects all facets of their business, especially customer perceptions of their value. Also, customer loyalty to your value if you're running a business or a contact center. And lastly, the customer's desire to continue doing business with you is going to be predicated on their experience they have with you. My own personal experience, I have no problem dropping a vendor of choice as a vendor based on the experience I have with them, because I figure there's somebody else out there that's going to provide me more bang for my buck, and that's what I expect. So I'm one of those customers who expects a lot. With technology today, you're going to find more and more clients are going to be expecting more. Now, what's interesting to me is that despite the advances in technology, most businesses that I encounter still languish behind big data. That's not to say they don't have data, they absolutely do. But what they're languishing behind is the ability to intersect the data with their customer service experience, especially in the contact center. Today, everything is about data. Everyone understands the Google story. They've lived and breathed and continue to live and breathe and make trillions of dollars on data. So I'm talking about and proposing that we use that data in conceptual ways for your contact center. In fact, consider this. The concept of big data is not new. IBM mainframes had been around for years, and going back to my history about 20 years ago when I worked for a developer, a vacation ownership developer in Southern California, I got my hands on this application, to go back to an example I referred to a few moments ago. This application was called Database Assistant, a very nimble application. However, everyone used it in an IVR fashion to look up account information and to read it back to the client. But we had a very active financial services group. I came up with the fact that at that point in time, why don't we look at the account balance, and before we give them any information about their account, if they're delinquent, we send them right to a financial officer who can handle their delinquency. At that point in time, people thought that was amazing. But fast forwarding to today, I still see so many contact centers that are not really relishing that opportunity and putting it to good use. So the concept of big data is not new, and what I'll say is every business has a common platform and availability of information. Number one, we know every business out there today to do business must have a communications platform. And we know that communications platform at some level has data associated to it because almost everybody looks for reporting. Secondarily, almost everyone has a CRM or CRM-like application or process. Now, in this example here, I'm using CRM very loosely. I'm aware that people have homegrown applications, web-based applications. My reference to CRM is just synonymous with a place where I store information about my customers. And fast forwarding today, those progressive environments are now starting to use heavy business analytics applications through BI intelligence. This goes from marketing groups, analytics groups, anyone that really wants to find out what is the health beat of their business. The one piece I don't see a lot of folks using is leveraging that in the contact center space. The key underneath all these applications and almost every CRM, and remember I'm using this term very loosely, is a database. The database, in my opinion, is the key to breaking the cycle of the ACD rhythm. And I'm going to give you some specific examples of what we have done for some of our clients. Add to that, many businesses today use BI applications. If I go to healthcare, financial services, one of my primary questions is, do you export your data for other purposes? 9 times out of 10, they will say yes. And while they may not be using a traditional BI application, they're certainly using a database structure to manipulate and to massage that data to really understand their customer and their business. The good news is having access to the database opens up an almost infinite array of possibilities. Things you can do with a true-false question to evaluate what is my next step with this client or this caller. Especially and most importantly is the ability to differentiate your business from your competition, because if you're not thinking about this, your competition likely is. And we run into plenty of them where we give them helpful hints and put them on the pathway to achieving great customer success using their data. So let's talk about ACD and IVR. Now, my title here, Dynamic ACD, is a little bit sort of redundant because we know ACD is dynamic by nature. But what I'm really going to be talking about is creating responsive intelligence within your ACD and IVR process using your data. So are we still static? I always look to that point of when a client tells me about their contact center, walk me through your process. If I'm calling your 800 number or local number, tell me what's going to happen to my call. 9 times out of 10, they have a tree-based call routing system or auto attendant. And this is pretty standard, and that's not to say you will do away with this completely. However, there are certainly options to make this a little more dynamic. Most folks absolutely recall, thank you for calling my business. For customer service, press 1. For tech support, press 2. For sales, press 3. Those are standard and they've been around for years and years. However, leveraging data, you can create responsive intelligence with information you already know about your customers. This includes some basic information about who they are, where they come from. It could be a language preference. Predominantly, you'll see language preferences in healthcare at some point. And if you're not asking them directly about language preference, I'm sure you're presenting an option that says for assistance in English, press 1. If you'd like assistance in Spanish, press 2, or some other language. But the fact that you posed the question and that your client is making a choice means you've at least at some point had the opportunity to make a change for the better. You know why they call you. In fact, when you go through an IVR process and they're calling for customer service, sales, or support, you get a sense of why they're calling. And then once the call actually takes place, you get more information, hopefully from the agent's desktop where they're indicating a disposition code or a wrap code or reason for the call. Those are the reasons why your clients are calling you. To gather information while it's happening in real time is another process that you can deploy to help you gain really great strategies for customer experience. You also know something about your non-customers, especially for marketing. Marketing gurus love the circle of data. So anytime you have callers calling you, even if they're your non-customers, it's likely you may have some information. Now, what I don't want to paint a picture is that everything is 100% foolproof, but I will paint a picture of that leveraging information intelligently helps you craft a solution that's built on creative, responsive intelligence. So let me give you a couple of examples. Let's walk you through just some very simple examples, and I'm going to take us to some more expanded examples in terms of really turning the ACD and the IVR on its head. And this is what I think is, to me, is fun. So how can data be used? Primarily, we can look at caller ID, grab some information, and typically through an IVR process or through a database connection process, we can reach out to an application, whether that's your database, your CRM, through a web service or a BI app. In my example here, excuse me, in my example here, I'm grabbing account balance. When I pull the account balance information, this is my opportunity to make a logical decision about what to do with this caller. So here I'll post a simple question. Is the account balance over $500? If yes, send them to financial services. If no, send them to customer service. This all depends on what your process is and what you find important. Now take that account balance example here, change it to anything in your database that has value. It could be a balance, it could be a delinquency rate, it could be a customer profile type, anything that has value for the client and servicing the client and giving them great customer service. Now earlier Travis talked about customer type, and if you're a VIP client and you spend millions of dollars, people that spend millions of dollars tend to like to be treated a certain way. So back to the same example. Let's say this caller calls in. We look at the caller ID again, and this time we're going to look at customer type. We're going to evaluate that this customer is VIP, and based on that information, we're going to decide, is this a VIP customer? If yes, send them to special services with a high priority. If no, send them to the general customer service with no priority. Now again, any example can apply. These are very straightforward examples based on numbers and based on type, but let's talk about extending the possibilities of responsive intelligence. Using your customer data to drive things that you may not have thought about previously. Most people approach their contact center in a very sort of cookie cutter format. Really, to be dynamic, there are no rules for using data to drive intelligence. Used intelligently, you actually gain more control from two facets of your business. Number one, you definitely have a hand in the customer experience. You're navigating that call in real time with on-the-fly choices. But on the flip side, I'm controlling my business. Let's talk about money for a moment. If I'm a business that sells products and services, you know at some point in time your client is going to be delinquent. And it's very possible your customer may be calling repeatedly to place further orders. But in some cases, to control the business, you're going to use that delinquency rate or those numbers to then make a decision about, do I make them available or let them be available to place more orders while they have a pending delinquency. So things like that. But the reality is, change the game. Be creative. There's really no specific rule here. We gave examples of changing a priority based on VIP customer or changing the destination. Those are pretty standard. That's what most people think about. However, be bold. Change anything on the fly to create great customer experiences. Change their menus. If I'm a VIP customer, why do I get the same menu as anybody else? Change it completely. Give them separate offerings. Change the announcements. Give them a completely different green that says, thank you for your loyalty, you're a VIP client, etc. Change the on-hold music. In my previous life, I would work with a donations facility that their high-end donors would hear a celebrity announcement and a thank you from a celebrity. So change those types of things. Change on-hold music. Change the marketing strategy. In financial services, if you can see someone is subprime versus prime, offer them different announcements and different opportunities for percentage rates or APR rates, that you can mix and match what makes the most sense in your business. Completely what we're talking about is changing the customer experience. Instead of treating everyone like a cookie cutter, same for same, change it up based on the value of that client. So again, anything in your database can change how you leverage what you offer them. In this case, I'm saying use any data. My examples previously were based on a couple of pieces of information. The example here is grab any data from your customer base, and in this case, take that data and apply different menu options. So these are just an example of how the things you can change up. So aside from priorities, you're actually changing the whole strategy on the deployment of the menu options. Now, I've been talking about data from a database perspective. But one of the things that comes in handy is the ability to pass information along to an agent. And this is not new, and many of you probably already do some of this. But using data labels can also be used to make true-false routing decisions. But in my case here, I'm going to give us a couple of examples of how I might use data labels in the process. Let's say a caller calls in. They get a standard greeting menu. Thank you for calling. If you're a provider, press 1. A member, press 2. Or some other option, press 3. As soon as I make that selection, we're going to flag that call with a label called member. Then we're going to go to the next menu option. Thank you. If you're calling about Blue Shield, press 1. Medicare, press 2. Medicaid, press 3. Again, based on the client's or the caller's option they've selected, attach another label to the call, and you see that down below. And finally, once we get to our destination for our final option, we may be presented with, if you're calling for appointments, press 1. If you're calling to place a claim, press 2, or pharmacy, press 3. The key here is as we use labels, we can use information to either dynamically move the call or dynamically send information to the agent's desktop. And when you talk about contact centers, especially smaller contact centers that must do double duty for multiple business units, having this valuable information at the desktop allows them to create, first it allows them to focus on the customer, and then ultimately to create unforgettable customer experiences. Anytime you can shave 20 seconds, 15 seconds off a call, it matters to the customer, it matters to the agent, and I also like to add here that your customer, your agent is your customer as well. So when I think about contact center for the customer experience, think about the agent as well, because how you treat your agents is going to be how they treat customers. So when I say customers, I think about the top to bottom. Lastly, I want to address, if data is so prevalent, and it seems so easy, what are the biggest obstacles? What do we come in contact? And usually there's a sort of an obstructionism, and it's for these two words that cause a lot of fear in folks that are looking to evaluate processes. Nothing scares users away from intelligent solutions than these two words, the word custom and the word integration. These words usually conjure up a developer in the back room having to pound out hours and hours of code. And while that can be an obstacle for some, one of the things that we look for, the real obstacle here is that the knowledge and lack of ready-made, easily adaptable applications. So what we specifically do at Inflow is we partner with products that allow us to have out-of-the-box functionality for data connectors. It's very important to us because we realize where the customer experience trends are today, and the best way to affect the customer experience trends is the access to data. That's one of the most dramatic things that we've seen in the last 3 to 5 years. We also look for out-of-the-box variable options. For the techie in you, variable means I want to be able to assign values based on my specific use. A moment ago, I showed you examples about labels. The ability to assign variable information gives me the flexibility to create a scenario that's based on my specific need, my business need, or in this case, your business need. But lastly, it has implications for reporting. Anytime you're changing things up, I'm always looking for, in my opinion, the next question is always, well, how are you going to report on that? So when I'm looking, and when we're looking at products, we're always looking for these 3 flexible options, because at the end of the day, if you can't see it, if you can't measure it, you're not sure how effective it is. So these are the 3 hallmarks of products that we look to partner with. And with that said, I'm going to turn this over to Travis. He's going to give us an overview on what some of our customers are doing in terms of leveraging data. So Travis?
Thank you, Chris. Yeah, so without getting into the weeds, I'll talk primarily about a national contact center customer that we have, and that's Zillow. They are I'm sure most of you have heard of Zillow. Next slide, Chris. They're a leading real estate and online rental marketplace. The data in this particular example is Salesforce.com. They're a heavy Salesforce.com shop. They use that nationally. And in this particular example, they're using the ShoreTel Enterprise Contact Center that we've implemented for them. So there's a few challenges actually. The impetus to this project, Zillow had acquired Trulia, and they were using 2 different contact center systems. I believe there was a cloud-based contact center system. One was using LiveOps. Trulia was using LiveOps, and Zillow was using a more rudimentary form of contact center, which was ShoreTel Workgroups, and they weren't using ShoreTel's Enterprise Contact Center. So the idea was to displace essentially both disparate contact centers, merge their two PBX systems together, and then leveraged a very tight integration between the ShoreTel Enterprise Contact Center and their Salesforce.com. So this is a fairly complex integration, but to keep it more 30,000 foot, essentially when a call comes into Zillow, we recognize the caller ID and we query the Salesforce.com database. So I use this as an example. This is a cloud-based application. It doesn't have to be an on-site or a premises-based database. And based on that, we're looking for a couple of things. Does the caller ID match a client that we know about or a lead that we know about in Salesforce? And if so, route it to the sales rep that manages that account. If not, route it to the sales rep that last spoke to that account, right? And if there is no match, let's look at the area code and route that call to the actual geographic-based sales team that can better take care of that particular lead or customer as quickly as possible. Because with Zillow, it's all about conversions. It's getting the caller to the right person at the right time that can better take care of their needs, best take care of their needs immediately. And so this is really important to them. So this is an example of kind of using 2 or 3 logic steps in getting the call quickly to the right person. Next slide.
Sure, and I want to add one more comment to that. What was hidden beneath this that you're not seeing is that was paramount to Zillow, and I'm sure if you've watched television that you've seen their advertisements on a regular basis. One of the things that was critical for them is in the background, we needed to gather marketing information and numbers to push that information into their BI applications. So what we worked with them on is helping them understand where the data is located and the best use of data, but probably most importantly, letting them use a naming and numbering convention that mattered to them. In this way, we were able to push data into their Salesforce that lets their Salesforce folks, some people are numbers minded, some people are name minded. And it allows them to report in the best possible way for each of those specific users.
Yeah, just to reiterate what Chris is saying, the other piece of this, they wanted a single pane of glass for their business intelligence and for their reporting. And so we're taking CDR data, call detail records data from the contact center and pushing it into Salesforce. So now via a single pane of glass, they can see important metrics and thresholds based on both applications, their contact center and their CRM piece. Other things to think about. So skills-based routing, priority-based routing, other things that we're layering into this with Zillow is understanding who's best capable to take care of this particular caller. And that's a skill. And if you recognize who the customer is and you leverage your data correctly and dynamically, we can then implement skills-based routing and route that call to the agent that can best take care of that particular caller. So this is probably different than a lot of people are implementing on skills-based routing where it's more menu-driven. This is dynamic. This is happening under the hood, transparent to the caller. Also collecting multiple data points along the way, like Chris was talking about. How do we collect multiple data points along the way, whether it's the particular option they selected in a menu, maybe information we pulled out of the caller ID, information we pulled, fields that we pulled from the database, and presenting all that information in a nice tidy package to the agent so they can quickly take care of that customer, which is really a win-win, right? Not only are you improving efficiencies within your contact center organization and minimizing call transactions, but you're also creating a better customer experience for the caller. And the last example here would be priority-based routing, and that's kind of the holy grail to me. If I recognize that this is a high revenue customer, I want to recognize that early on, and I want to do something with that call. I want to provide special treatment to that call. I want to route it to specific people in my organization that are more apt to take care of that customer. All of these things are layered into the particular example we're using with Zillow.
Sure, I want to add dovetail on that. One of the things, and this is not Zillow specific, but one of the things that has really been a driver for some of the customers I worked for is agent performance. So if you're a lead generation or marketing machine, being able to convert on the floor, it has an impact. So I've worked with clients in the past that had a database solely based on agent performance, success rate of conversions, and the conversion table was absolutely used to see who got that call. So if Sally Jones was our top producer for today, she got the first opportunity for the next call. If tomorrow she's not the top conversion agent, then somebody else will get the call. So think of how different ways data can be used to affect different bottom lines.
Great point there. Absolutely. So that's the more in-depth case study we wanted to talk about. Some other real-world examples that we work with, I'll just talk high level. A multi-site national healthcare company. So here's an example of probably using your contact center in a less traditional environment as it pertains to integrating with data. This particular customer uses multi-channel functionality within the contact center, and they do a lot of digital marketing. And so when customers land on specific landing pages based on their SEO and their probably their pay-per-click strategies, we give them the opportunity to web chat with an agent. Well, depending on what landing page they were at, and when they initiate a web chat, which is just an additional contact center interaction, we take that URL and we push that into their Salesforce.com database, another Salesforce.com example. So now not only are we providing a good customer experience or potentially a rapid conversion into revenue, but we're also providing business intelligence to the marketing team so they know which landing pages are driving this particular interaction. Here's kind of a fun example of a high-end pizza delivery company that we work with. So they're using a homegrown database application, and when customers call them, it's almost magical. They know who you are, they know your pizza preferences, your topping preferences, they know your dog's name, they know your gate code, they know everything about you as they answer the call. Well, this creates unforgettable experiences. This is not the vanilla one-size-fits-all experience that a lot of their competitors are providing, and because of this, they're extremely successful. But not only that, there's things going on under the hood. Customers are categorized based on revenue, based on the transactions, the orders, the history that they have with this particular company, and based on that, they're actually immediately in the database. They're labeled dynamically as a specific type of customer, which then provides the agents direction in offering them different promotions, different specials, etc. So this is a great example of providing an unforgettable customer experience literally every time you call this company, and that's all done through a homegrown on-site database integrating with the contact center application that we work with. This particular company uses Microsoft Dynamics, and we're using the ShoreTel contact center with them as well. And this is a relatively new contact center deployment, but this company provides pharmaceutical services for elderly care facilities throughout the country. And so there's a special type of treatment that needs to be provided for these particular callers. And all of that information traditionally has always been in the Microsoft Dynamics database. And so the contact center piece came more recently than the data in this example. But they understood that leveraging the trends and the historical properties of these customers, they understand their preferences, they leverage that for skills-based routing it to agents that are most capable of taking care of that particular elderly caller. They understand everything about that customer before that customer's call even gets answered. So those are a few examples. We work with, again, customers with many different types of contact center applications. More importantly, many, many different types of data applications, whether it's cloud-based, whether it's on-site, whether it's a CRM or an ERP system or homegrown. If you have the data, there's a lot you can do. And so I'm going to hand it back to Chris here for the conclusion.
Great, thanks, Travis. As I said, I'm not a professed data head, but I understand what data can do in an environment. And more importantly, the power of data, it can completely enable how you enable your contact center operations. There are just so many different examples of how data can push dramatic results, not only for customer experience, but also for your operational value and perceptions of customers. I would say explore your options. There are lots of different ways to slice and dice this. think outside the box. One of the things I want to also add is that when we're talking about accessing data and connecting to data, we do not recommend connecting to your raw data in any business, because the raw data is the holy grail of your business. It's the foundation of your operation. However, 9 times out of 10, clients are exporting the minimal subset of data into a separate table, which allows you to strategically put information that would be used for routing purposes. So when you're talking about data and your options, think outside the box. Also, start with the customer in mind first. If you're a customer, take your personal experiences and put that to work in what would I like to experience. I know for myself, I tend to be somewhat of a harsh customer. Not that I'm mean, but I understand what data can do. So if I've already keyed in my account number, why is someone asking for me, asking that information from me again? So I always start with the customer in mind first. Of course, you're going to attach your business need as well. And lastly, be bold. Differentiate yourself. Why do the same thing everyone else is doing? I think people have a tremendous opportunity, and businesses have a tremendous opportunity to leverage information they already own, information they've already gathered, to create incredible experiences. I mean, you have the power to transform and create your own customer experience for your clients and to manage and maintain your business. If you have any questions and would like to investigate further inquiries, here's our phone number. We're at 844-4INFLO, and our website here is inflowcommunications.com. We'd love to hear from you.
And just to finish on that slide, if you get a chance, go take a look at our website and our blog posts. And we also have a LinkedIn group, call center and contact centers. Chris Riccio does a lot of blog posts, and we have a lot of educational content around this stuff. So really appreciate everybody's time today. Hopefully we'll be talking to some of you very soon. And on that note, have a fantastic day, and be looking for every quarter, every month, we're doing educational webinars around UC and contact center topics. So go to our website, be looking for the next webinar that we're going to be doing. So thank you very much. Have a great day.